Here is the most dangerous number in real estate. It is not the mortgage rate. It is not the property tax. It is not the maintenance budget. It is the number that almost nobody calculates and almost nobody admits exists, which is exactly why the rent versus buy debate keeps producing the same wrong answer every single time. That number is how much you are actually paying for the privilege of calling yourself a homeowner, not the number on the listing, not the mortgage payment the bank approves you for. The full, honest, all-in cost, including the parts that real estate influencers and mortgage lenders have a financial incentive to never show you. And when you run that number, the conversation changes. Two people, same city, same income, same savings. One buys, one rents and invests. 20 years later, they have both built real wealth. But who built more and under what conditions is the part of this debate that almost never gets an honest answer. Because here's the truth, that the home ownership industrial complex does not want you sitting with the person who rents is not automatically throwing money away, and the person who buys is not automatically building wealth. What matters is what they each do with every dollar that is not nailed down, and the math on that question is far more complicated than any thumbnail has ever admitted. We are going to run the real numbers today, the full 30-year breakdown, mortgage interest, closing costs, property taxes, maintenance budgets, opportunity cost, home appreciation, compound returns, rent inflation, seller commissions, the one number almost nobody calculates. This is the rent versus buy debate, run honestly. Jake is 32 years old. He earns $80,000 a year. He has $70,000 saved. He lives in a mid-sized American city, where a comfortable 3-bedroom house in a decent neighborhood is listed at $350,000. Jake decides to buy it. He puts the full $70,000 down. That is exactly 20%, which lets him avoid private mortgage insurance. He takes a 30-year loan at 7% interest. His principal and interest payment comes to $1,863 per month. Then come the additional costs that every homeowner knows and every pre-purchase calculation quietly omits. Property taxes at $350 per month, homeowner's insurance at $150, a maintenance reserve of $290 per month, which represents approximately 1% of the home's value annually. That is not a generous estimate. That is the minimum any honest financial planner will give you. Jake's total monthly cost of owning this home is $2,653. Marcus, Jake's counterpart, calls his landlord and signs another lease. He rents a comparable 3-bedroom in the same neighborhood for $2,000 per month. He takes the $70,000 he did not wire to a down payment and puts it into a total stock market index fund. And every month, he invests the $653 difference between what Jake pays and what he pays. On paper, Marcus looks like he found a loophole. He is living in essentially the same house for $653 less per month, with his capital still in the market. He looks like he is winning before the game has even started. But Jake just made a move with a hidden front load that Marcus did not. Closing costs on a $350,000 home run between 2 and 5% of the purchase price, lender fees, title insurance, attorney fees, prepaid property taxes, escrow setup. Jake paid $70,000 to get into this home. His real day one cost was closer to $82,000 to $88,000. That gap has to be recovered before buying starts to generate a genuine financial advantage over renting. The real estate industry does not advertise this number. It makes the first year look bad, but it is real, it is standard, and it comes due at a table you cannot get up from once you are sitting at it, and it gets worse before it gets better. In year one of a 30-year mortgage at 7%, the vast majority of Jake's monthly payment is not equity. It is interest. Of that $1,863 monthly payment, roughly $1,633 goes to the lender as interest in month one. Only $230 reduces the loan balance. Jake is paying $1,633 in interest, $350 in taxes, $150 in insurance, and $290 in maintenance. That is $2,423 per month, leaving his account with no equity attached. The $230 in principal paydown is the only piece of his payment doing what everyone imagines the whole payment is doing. The phrase throwing money away on rent survives because it sounds true. But in year one of a 7% 30-year mortgage, Jake is throwing away $2,400 a month on costs that build zero equity. Marcus is throwing away $2,000 a month on rent. On pure cash flow math, Marcus is throwing away less. He has not replaced a water heater. He called his landlord. At year 3, Marcus is slightly ahead in liquid net worth. Jake has more equity on paper, but Jake cannot spend equity without selling the house or borrowing against it. Marcus can access his portfolio on any business day. This is where the home ownership analysis almost always stops, because the equity number looks good on its own without the full cost sitting next to it. But here's the part that really changes the math. Property taxes do not stay fixed. They are assessed on value. Jake's $350 per month is based on a $350,000 home. If that home appreciates to $500,000 in 15 years, his taxes follow. In many American markets, that means his total housing cost rises over time, even though his mortgage payment stays anchored. And maintenance is not optional. It is also not always $290 a month. Budget years look like $200 in caulk and light bulbs. Reality years look like a $9,000 roof, a $7,500 HVAC system, and a $4,000 foundation repair that announced itself as a hairline crack in the basement floor. These costs are guaranteed over a long enough timeline. A homeowner who does not reserve for them is not saving money. They are borrowing time against a bill that arrives without warning. The hidden ownership tax is not the mortgage. The mortgage is visible. The hidden tax is the accumulating, compounding cost of maintaining an aging physical asset with no landlord to call. The number that almost never appears in the home ownership analysis is the opportunity cost of the down payment. Jake wired $70,000 to closing. That money is gone from the market the moment the transaction closes. It is not invested in anything that compounds. It is sitting inside the walls of a house, accessible only if the house appreciates, and only if Jake sells or borrows against it. At a 10% average annual return over 20 years, that $70,000 invested in a total market index fund would have grown to approximately $470,000. That is not money Jake lost. That is the alternative outcome he traded for the opportunity to call himself a homeowner. The comparison is only honest if you put that number in the column next to the equity. And this is precisely what almost no rent versus buy analysis does. The home ownership side counts the home's appreciation. It does not count what the down payment would have compounded to in the market over the same period. That is a selective accounting trick dressed up as math. By year 10, Jake's home is worth approximately $483,000 to $500,000 at 3 to 4% annual appreciation. His remaining mortgage balance after 10 years of payments is approximately $246,000. His equity sits between $237,000 and $254,000. He has spent roughly $30,000 to $40,000 on maintenance, repairs, and small upgrades over the decade. Total money out of pocket, down payment, closing costs, and everything above principal is somewhere between $160,000 and $185,000. Marcus at year 10 has a different ledger. His original $70,000 has grown to approximately $181,000. His monthly contributions have added approximately $110,000 in portfolio value. Marcus's total liquid portfolio at year 10 is approximately $291,000. On liquid net worth at year 10, Marcus is ahead, but something important has shifted. Marcus's rent by year 10 has climbed to approximately $2,690 per month. He is now paying nearly as much as Jake every month, and Jake's mortgage payment is fixed for 20 more years. Marcus's rent will keep climbing. The math that looked like an obvious win for Marcus in year 1 is tightening. Year 20 is where the full picture finally arrives. And it is more complicated than either side of this debate wants to admit. Jake's home is worth approximately $670,000 to $700,000. His mortgage balance has dropped to around $188,000. His equity is approximately $482,000 to $512,000. His monthly housing cost has stayed relatively anchored to that original 1863 payment, even as everything around him got more expensive. That is the most underrated benefit of a fixed-rate mortgage in an inflationary environment. Marcus's portfolio at year 20 is approximately $550,000 to $580,000, assuming he held through every market correction without selling and kept contributing even as his rent consumed more and more of his income. His rent by year 20 has climbed to roughly $3,600 per month. In the later years of this comparison, his monthly investment contributions have shrunk substantially because the cost advantage he started with in year 1 is largely gone. The compounding that powered his early years is now partially offset by a rent bill with no endpoint and no equity accumulation underneath it. At year 20, Jake has approximately $480,000 to $510,000 in home equity. Marcus has approximately $550,000 to $580,000 in invested assets. Marcus is still ahead on paper, but Jake still has a house. When Jake eventually sells, he will pay a seller's commission of 5 to 6% on the sale price. On a $700,000 home, that is $35,000 to $42,000 leaving his pocket at the closing table. Combined with the costs he paid going in, his total transaction drag over a full buy and sell cycle is often 8 to 10% of the home's value. But Jake also has something Marcus does not. In year 30, when the mortgage is paid off, Jake's housing cost drops to property taxes, insurance, and maintenance. His monthly obligation becomes somewhere around $800. Marcus's rent at year 30, at 3% annual inflation, is approximately $4,800 a month. The honest answer to the rent versus buy question is this: neither is categorically better. What matters is the market you are in, the duration you plan to stay, the rate you lock in, what you actually do with the monthly savings if you rent, and whether you can hold through the years when the portfolio drops and the house is costing you money you did not budget for. Renting and investing the difference is a genuinely viable wealth-building strategy. Buying and building equity over 30 years is a genuinely viable wealth-building strategy. The problem is that most people pick one without running the full math on both, which means they are making one of the most significant financial decisions of their lives based on feelings and slogans instead of numbers. Understanding money is your best defense.